Hello, dear friends. This is Kardec Radio at 11 p.m. We are here to nourish ourselves together. You know that Spiritism is the plan of on high. Spiritism is this message that comes to us to really bring our understanding, our life to another level. Once we start learning about Spiritism, our lives shall be transformed. If not, it's a sign that we're not really getting there. The works, the the sacrifice of all the wonderful people before us, especially Master Jesus, makes us feel a true reverence, a deeper reverence. Kardec's legacy, Chico Xavier's legacy, all the wonderful minds of both realms that have dedicated their lives to making this life more meaningful to us and empowering us. So we owe to all of them this new feeling when we're living our lives. So we invite you today to join us in another study of the book Jesus in the Home by Neio Lucio through Chico Xavier. This book brings to us true encounters with the Master. They were immortalized, and today we're studying chapter 17, which is In Praise of Courtesy. We're going to talk about this, and it tells us about how much we really need to value everything, never taking anything for granted. Shall we, friends? This chapter begins by saying, in the presence of the crowd of suffering and heavy-hearted followers, the Master recounted the Beatitudes, making it a point to emphasize the statement that the meek would inherit the earth. What is to be meek? It's a word that some people tell me, Vanessa, I don't like it because it means like we're weak. No, weak is one thing, meek is another, right? It doesn't do justice if I just say it's about being mild. No. Meek, according to the dictionary, means quiet, gentle, okay? Patient, resigned. Are we far from that on earth? Yes, because we want to do things our way, and oftentimes it's very aggressive, right? So let me say hi to the friends who are already here with us before we continue this chapter. And if you're watching or listening to this on demand, a big hug to you. A big hug. Feel the blessings that we're feeling right now because it's as we're speaking, you're feeling it as well. Okay? You know that when you watch things on TV, everything is pre-recorded and you feel as live as it is, right? You should feel the same here. You know why? Because for the brain, what is real is what you feel is real. So even if it's live right now or not, all right? So Jailton is here with us. Thank you, Jailton. Adilson, how are you? John the Rosa, how are you, John? Carol Correia and Lívia Moraes, thank you for joining us. Sunshine, how are you, Sunshine? Teresa Castro, Nora Brasil, big hug to the both of you. Daisy, how are you? A big hug to your sister, Denise too. Rihanna, Matthew, hello Matthew. Aha. Welcome, Matthew. You're welcome. It's your first time here with us at 11 p.m. Welcome, okay? So, We're studying this very chapter, 17th, in praise of courtesy. As a neuroscientist, I can share with you that when we visualize something, it's as real as if we were somewhere else in that very scenario. The brain is capable of creating a reality and feeling throughout it as if we were doing it. So it's worthwhile doing visualizations and moments like the one we're doing now, visualizing ourselves seated around the master, just like in this picture over here. Okay, just like in this picture over here, the master and the disciples listening and learning from Jesus himself. So, can you imagine Jesus recounting the Beatitudes? Blessed are the afflicted, blessed are the meek. And now we're learning especially his emphasis regarding the meek that will inherit the earth. Did you know in the last issue of the Spiritist magazine, we have an article talking about Chico Xavier's revelation when Emmanuel said that Hitler was removed from the earth and is living in Pluto. Yeah, Pluto, the very planet that once was a planet, now became a dwarf planet, was back again as a planet, and again as a dwarf planet. So it's funny that lately we've been talking about, is Pluto a planet, not a planet, planet, not a planet? But knowing that every world in this universe is inhabited, chapter 3 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, we know, and it's in the Spiritist magazine. For you, just go to spiritistmagazine.com and read in digital form, or go to the app. We have an app in the Android store or App Store. It's the app, Spiritist Magazine. You can read all the issues free of charge. Look at that. Okay? Spiritist Magazine, the red icon. When you open it, you have all the issues there for you, free of charge. You go there, read it. The latest issue number 44, you're going to read about that article and much more. Okay? So why we're talking about this? Because if we are not resigned, patient, kind, and gentle, which is the opposite of being violent, we're not gonna stay on earth. Because our planet is evolving. Either we move forward with it or we won't be here. Right, Rudy? Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here with us, Lisa Telly, Celio. Thank you, Celio, for your loving message. Thank you. So, the statement by Jesus, however, resounded among the disciples in a less than pleasing manner. Of course, even nowadays, I remember once I was at work at the University of Maryland as a scientist, and I was talking to one of my bosses, and I talked about, the importance of subjecting ourselves to a certain rule and regulation. And I mentioned to him, I said, I love you obeying the laws, and for me, I surrender to any particular disposition here that will benefit the general good. And he opened his eyes wide and said, don't say that, don't say that. No, 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 I don't mind. For me, it's okay. No, but Vanessa, you have to be proud and you have to. And I said, that's not the way I see things. I don't need to prove a point here. If things are right, they're right. I don't need to power struggle here. So that's very interesting that in our society, we're still looked at in a good way if we're rebellious, if we are coming against something. Jesus just asks us to help those who are sick. That's the revolution of love. The true revolution is of love, right? So that's why the disciples didn't like it. Wouldn't such an assertion encourage mental idleness? Meaning, we're not going to do anything, we're just going to keep the status quo? If the gospel called upon valiant minds to sow the renewing truths, how could this need for fearlessness be squared with Jesus' promise regarding the meek? If evil was daring and crushing in all climates and positions, how was it possible for the good to win an immediate victory by means of the inability to react, albeit peaceably? It was in light of these vague questions that the family group gathered at Peter's house. But isn't that how sometimes you feel? Assessment question for us. If we don't feel the scripture, it's to no use. Don't you feel like this? Well, you can ask, but Vanessa, come on. If you disagree with something, wouldn't you say it? So it depends. It depends. If I belong to an organization and I see that there is a lot of wrong going on, would I talk to people about it? Yes. But to create a revolution? No. Would I incite people against an organization? No. But if I am a member, am I going to do my part? Yes. It's completely different from battling against, dethroning people. People do what they gotta do. Of course, right? So the same in our families. In our families, do we agree when our children come against us as parents? No. There is something that we call respect. We should respect. We agree to disagree, but we don't disrespect. We're not ungrateful. If we disagree, we peacefully go our ways, but we don't start plotting against anybody. But the disciples were hoping, as many people, that a leader of the Jewish tradition would rise up and battle against the Romans. But Jesus was not going to fit their profile. Having begun that evening spiritually constructive discussion, the disciples looked at one another amid inquiry and curiosity. The divine friend seemed to perceive the reason for everyone's expectation. But he waited, Jesus waited patiently for his followers to speak up. Yeah, we have to wait. And that's the problem. In our Spirit Society of Virginia, recently, we've received a message. It was like a month or 2 months ago. A message in our mediumistic meeting titled Judas Syndrome. It's funny because we're coming so close to Easter, right? Judas Syndrome. And the Spirit Mentor explains to us that the vanity inside of us creates this illusion, making us think that we always have a better way of fixing things up, like Judas. He thought he had a better plan than the master. And by thinking that way, he created a whole plot without noticing. It's said in the book of News. Why are we saying this? Because it pertains to this very chapter. We're talking about being meek when we are proud, proud in that sense, egotistic, thinking that we have a better way of doing things. We, like Judas, in our vanity, always thinking we have a better way, we don't wait patiently for things to get resolved. We always think that we always have a better solution, and we are aggressive, and we are brutal, and we disrespect organizations, people, family members. And then we create a pathway of destruction in our lives. When we discarnate at our funeral, what can people tell about us? Of course, we're not here in a contest to say who is going to have to be well remembered at a funeral, because what matters is what is inside of our minds, right? Joan of Arc didn't die in the highest honors because she was burnt at stake, as if she's crazy, as if she was someone who betrayed. But we know that she was just a missionary for causes of the Christ, but somebody who was also paying debts from the past. Like Jesus died at the cross as a thief. Well, he's the governor of the planet. What do you expect it's going to happen to you, or to me, or to those who really start following the footsteps? People are going to think you're crazy. Jesus said it, right? So it was then that Judas broke the veil of respect that hallowed the Master's presence, asking glibly, Lord, why do you attribute the ultimate possession of the earth to the meek? Will cowardly hearts really enjoy such a blessing? Will those who are incapable of bearing witness to their faith during the grave moments of struggle and sacrifice also be blessed? We're talking about Judas, who thought he was so brave, and he was the one who betrayed the very Master. Jesus did not respond right away. It's amazing because this is the second chapter in this book where there is the description between the dialogue of Judas and Jesus. And Jesus always has a particular way of dealing with Judas. In this case, he doesn't react. He glanced around at the others as if to ask them to voice any other doubts that might be clouding their souls. A good teacher. Peter worked up the nerve to ask, Yes, Master, if any evildoer were to visit me at home, shouldn't I remind him about the need for mutual respect? Should I give in to him without any sort of fraternal admonishment against his criminal whims, under the pretext of safeguarding the meekness to which you referred? Christ smiled, as he had done so many times before, and spoke calmly. It's amazing, the nonverbal lessons of Jesus, smiling with calmness. It's not a sarcastic smile. It's like when we see little kids who say something that is outrageous, and you understand it. So when I think of little kids like painting the wall, I know you feel like, oh my gosh, but at the same time, it's so cute. Little kids, not big kids. Little kids, like toddlers, right? Kindergartners in a way, or pre-K. You look around and like, oh my gosh, or they say something and you're like, you smile and you speak calmly because you understand. So Jesus is not reacting. He's not playing smart. He's not being sarcastic. So let us visualize it, because in these nonverbal lessons, we're learning a new way of behaving. He's teaching us to be meek. Everybody's like tense. And he's like easy, cool. He's really chilling here. Of course, you are all mistaken. I didn't praise laziness. I'm going to repeat his words. Of course, you are all mistaken. I didn't praise laziness, which hides behind the mask of humility, nor cowardliness, which dons the appearance of prudence in order to better accommodate itself to human conveniences. Individuals who become attached to such artifices will greatly suffer the spiritual measures that the world uses to reform tortuous and indecisive characters. Actually, I am praising the courtesy that we all owe one another. Blessed are the mild-mannered, who are able to use their constructive energy in a gesture of kindness and a word of understanding. Blessed are the children of balance and kindness, who learn how to deny evil without insulting ignorant neighbors, who request it without knowing what they are asking for. Blessed are those who repeat the same lesson 1,000 times over without boasting about it, so that their neighbor might feel the influence of their action. Blessed are those who know how to deal with the rich and the poor, the wise and the ignorant, the good and the evil, with the spirit of service and understanding, giving to each one in accordance with their merits and needs, while leaving traces of improvement, spiritual growth, well-being, and contentment wherever they go. In truth, I say to you that they will inherit the spiritual domain of the earth, because all those who welcome their neighbor within the guidelines of love and respect are owners of the hearts that are perfected in the world. Relief and happiness overflowed from the overall enthusiasm, and with eyes now fixed on the waters of the immense lake, the Lord asked Matthew to close that evening's fraternal lesson with a prayer. Okay, so let's go back to Jesus' main statement. He's talking about, to us, mild manners. He's talking about courtesy. He's talking about kindness, understanding, balance, kindness. He's talking about blessed are those who repeat the same lesson 1,000 times. Blessed are those who know how to deal with the rich and the poor, etc. So he's talking about people who don't stop doing the good because they are misunderstood. How many people say, I'm not going to be good to that person because look how they are to me? Dwelling. We don't want to dwell. We don't want to manipulate, right? Of course, if you have a child, you need to protect your child. Of course. Of course. You need to help your child. Of course, if you have a company, you need to fight for its sustenance, but never at the detriment of somebody else's, right? Of course, for us, this lesson is coming at a time when the world is in high levels of intolerance. High level, everything's so flammable nowadays. Minor things become a sparkle, like a sparkle for an explosion. And we're like, what's going on? What is going on? It is the transition. We're being watched carefully every step of the way by forces of the good and by forces of the bad. Not for long, because that has a deadline. That's a sure thing. Mark it down. Goodness prevails and shall prevail, but evil has a deadline. It's not going to stay here for eternity. It's going to be vanished because we are acquiring new knowledge and we are increasing our moral capacity on earth. But for the time being, we need to peacefully protect our headquarters, the headquarters of our mind with positive thinking, the headquarters of our heart, of our daily life, of our family, organizations, with diligent work on the good. In the Medium's book by Allan Kardec, chapter 30, Kardec talks to us about how he ran the dispositions of the Spiritist Society of Paris. And there is one article there, he says, if somebody comes to be a troublemaker, he used to give 3 warnings. And if the person didn't align him or herself, he would invite the person to never come back again. This is Allan Kardec. Fortunately or not, that's how things are run on the earth. To improve the quality, laws are needed. Of course, we're patient, we're tolerant, but people need to comply with the dispositions to benefit the general good. We're saying this because many people around the world write to Kardec Radio asking about how to run Spiritist societies, Spiritist groups, and we say, my friends, though we're free to run Spiritist societies, follow Kardec's model. We really need regulations to run a human society with imperfect humans focused on the general good. So that's our response to everybody who writes to Kardec Radio on a daily basis, asking questions of the nature. And if you already have a Spiritist center or a Spiritist group, make no mistake, you need rules, regulations. Why? Because as in chapter 1 of the 3rd part of the Spirit's book by Kardec, the Divine Natural Laws, it says there, humans need detailed description about the laws to be able to fulfill it well. So it's just like that. People won't do what they have to do until we guide. For example, Professor Eurípides Barçanufo, when you go to his school in Sacramento, Brazil, when you enter the school, there is a sign, you're welcome, but in this school, we invite you to have beautiful thoughts, raise your thoughts toward God, blah, 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 blah. Okay? It's already a way for us to surrender to that state of mind. When you step into Chico Xavier's last Spiritist Center, he used to have a plaque right above where he used to sit. This is the Spiritist group where Chico Xavier holds the God at Home meeting, blah, 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 blah. In that statement, he was saying, you cannot do whatever you like here, just because. So Jesus is saying, respect. We need, he says, I was praising the courtesy that we all owe to one another. Lately, I was talking to a close friend who has a child like me, and I said, it's time for us to revive some course on manners in our society, because people are losing manners. The new generation doesn't know how to eat with their mouths closed, how to say hi. And I'm saying this because I have to remind my child every day. But then she comes to me and says, Mom, but at school, everybody eats with the mouth open. And I said, but you need to do otherwise. She said, but Mom, everybody's doing that. And I'm like, okay, you're 5-year-old. I will explain to you that it's important for us not to show the food we're eating. I know it's minor, but it's manners. I'm not going to say I'm excellent in manners, but we need to do it. Do you think Jesus was well-mannered? Question for you. Do you think Jesus was well-mannered? Do you think he was polite? Do you think he was polite? Hmm? Jailton, just saw your statement here. Interesting that most members of revolutionary movements tend not to believe in God. Exactly. But the Jewish at the time, they were really upset about the Romans and the abuses of the time. When we read the book 2000 years ago, we go through that very plot that they had against the patricians, where they imprisoned Publius Lentulus and another senator, and they killed one of them by really taking the heart away with their own hands. Very brutal, very brutal. So, Livia Moraes, it's very good that you're downloading the Spiritist Magazine app. It's a joy to have this app being sponsored by the Spiritist side of Virginia and available to everybody. Hello, Amanda Andrade, Hercules Fernandes, Rod Bacani, how are you? So, friend, do you think Jesus was well-mannered and polite? So it's about time, tonight, in praise of courtesy, as says Neio Lucio. Tonight, we're being asked to polish ourselves in a way to be more well-mannered. All of us are being asked to do so. To polish ourselves in terms of understanding, kindness, courtesy. And he says, he says here, blessed are those who repeat the same lesson. So patience, he says, giving to each one in accordance to their merits and needs, and leaving traces of improvement and spiritual growth, well-being, contentment wherever we go. We will inherit the spiritual domain of the earth, because all those who welcome their neighbor within the guidelines of love and respect are owners of the hearts that are perfected in the world. So I cannot enter anybody's house or organization, do what I like, and leave with traces of discord. Those who disseminate discord, who disseminate slander, who disseminate everything that is not at peace or peaceful, they are in some way and means going to, as Jesus said, to receive what they have sown. If today we are already suffering this, good for us. It's a sign that we're coming to terms with it. But for those who are creating it today, only God knows tomorrow. And we don't know if they are going to be able to redress it on earth. Because the time, the hourglass of the hours of the transition of the earth has already shifted, and we're running out of time. If we don't become peacemakers and mild, meek, we won't be able to stay here. And the price we'll pay is to be far away from our loved ones, like the exiled of Capella a long time ago on the earth. Right? Is this a threat from the spirits to us? No. Is Jesus threatening us? No. He's educating us. He's saying, in this school, like a principal, saying, in this school, only the students who cooperate, who really want to learn and help will stay. Those who are rebellious are going to be sent to another school. Do you want to stay in this school? What else do we need to do? So tonight, in praise of courtesy, we're going to do a homework, okay? You and I, in the next 24 hours, think of good manners, courtesy, okay? Let's go easy on us. In the next 24 hours, let's see how we can be more polite, more well-mannered, polished, less abrupt, less disruptive, and practice it in the next 24 hours. Okay? That's our homework for all of us as a group. For now, I would like to invite you for a prayer. Let us pray that we can do that and vibrationally raise ourselves up. Shall we, friends? All right, so we thank you, Jesus, for the blessings of this lesson. We are surprised that you valued so much courtesy and we didn't notice before. It's interesting, it's heartwarming, and so invitational. Thank you for being our educator, our coach, our loving doctor, helping us heal from our rough edges, the wounds we've created with our aggressiveness. And may we visualize your smile, your soft and calm voice as an inspiration to greater patience in our lives and to a new disposition, less rebellious, more loving, more a team player with you. We pray that we may unfold this potentiality in the next 24 hours. May the guardian angels assigned by you finding us an open heart to be guided towards greater understanding, feeling the opportunity. We thank you very, very much, and so be it. We made it. Tomorrow when we come back, Jesus is going to teach us another lesson, the blessing of encouragement. Are you ready? That's Jesus, our eternal master. We owe so much to his loving smile, to his always patient embrace. And see you tomorrow in another chapter, Stories by the Master, here at Kardec Radio. Thank you, friends. Until tomorrow, God willing.